Michael Swickert here. Welcome to Enchanting Stories of New Mexico. Sponsored by the Fresh Chili Company in Las Cruces, New Mexico, our award-winning Hatch green and red chili is brought to you from locally owned farms in Hatch, New Mexico, which I'm sure you know. It's the chili capital of the world. A quote for today in New Mexico goes back to May 25th, 1961. Yes, a long time ago. President John Kennedy announced the intention of the American government to go to the moon and return safely within the 1960s. He said, "We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills, because that challenge is one that we are willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one which we intend to win." I was 10 at the time when I heard that and about to turn 11. Then and in the next 10 years of Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo missions, it really spoke to me. Heck, it still speaks to me. America is best when it has goals and challenges. President Kennedy's goal was one that made us, the U.S., much better. New Mexico, and especially southern New Mexico, Las Cruces, Alamogordo, White Sands Missile Range, were front and center to much of the space adventure. Yes, I knew we, the U.S., were racing the Soviet Union to the moon, but for me, it was always about doing it, not having a badge saying we were first. But we were. I was lucky enough over the years to meet several astronauts, and I was always in awe. They functioned in a team of going to space that was about 400,000 people. My favorite astronaut quote was from someone I never did meet, Alan B. Shepard Jr. He was the first to be successfully launched May 5th, 1961 in a suborbital Mercury spacecraft. It was Freedom 7, and then was the commander of Apollo 14, which did land on the moon. He was asked by a reporter what he thought about while sitting on top of 6.5 million gallons of volatile fuel on a rocket with millions upon millions of parts. He said, "I try not to think it was all done with the lowest bidder." That was a funny answer. Much of the work on the rocket engines were done near Las Cruces, as was the beginning of almost all the rocket work done at White Sands Missile Range starting in 1946. Tracking and other support was done, and I remember well each NASA mission. I was glued to the television and I was reading everything available to read. I built models of Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo rockets, and over the years was thrilled to meet and talk to several astronauts. I even worked for a year for Frank Borman, Apollo 8. He was in Las Cruces after he had retired, and I was doing stories much like these podcasts. I was writing about history and culture. I also interviewed several times then Senator Jack Smith. He was on Apollo 17. He was a U.S. Senator when I got to talk to him, but it was noted that with my interest, we talked about going into space and being in space, and him being the only geologist to land on the moon. I was also able to talk to Buzz Aldrin one time. Very, very nice man. Several other astronauts at the Farm and Ranch Museum when there were some space-related meetings. I still look up at the stars and planets, and occasionally I happily catch a glimpse of the International Space Station going overhead. There's a website that you can look at, tell them where you are, and it'll tell you when you will be able to see the International Space Station and what direction it's coming from, how long it'll be, and how far up in the sky it will be. Much like all the great tasting sauces and salsa at the Fresh Chili Company, going into space did not happen by accident, and I am made better by both the Fresh Chili Company and us going into space. Let me tell you some good culinary news. The 2023 Hatch chili pepper growing season is in harvest. Therefore, the chili roasting drums are fired up with that wonderful sound and smell, the roasting hatch green chili. Fire roasting gives the chili a wonderful smoky flavor. Michael Swickert here with the Enchanting Stories of New Mexico, sponsored by the Fresh Chili Company. Hit subscribe if you would like to automatically get these podcasts. Now, are you up for a challenge? At one time, a place you know was called Oxnard Field. No, not Oxnard in California. I used to live around there. But no, it was called Oxnard Field in another town I used to live in. It was named by somebody at some time, Oxnard Field, and here's a hint. It was near Watermelon Base. You know Watermelon Base? Oh, that's right. Let's do it in the Spanish. Sandia Base. Sandia is the word for watermelon. Being a field, it meant that airplanes took off and landed. Oxnard Field's name was changed, and I say amen to that, to the current name, the Albuquerque International Sunport. Great airport. I've flown in and out, and I'm glad we're not calling it Oxnard International Airport. Fishing's good in New Mexico. One of the great places to go fishing, especially fly fishing, is the San Juan River in far northwest New Mexico, up there by Farmington. The San Juan River is world famous for great fishing, though I'm told it's very handy to have a guide to help you set all this stuff up. Fishing licenses are not required for when someone is 11 years of age and younger. You can get your license online. You don't actually have to go to some office. There's a New Mexico Game and Fish website. 70 years of age or older, are you ready for this? It's free. I like free, don't you? If you do have a fish for dinner and use the Fresh Chili Company's products to enhance that flavor for your dinner, take a picture, post your recipe on the Fresh Chili Company Facebook page. You'll be famous for your recipe and people will notice. Now, friends, it's been more than warm around here for the last month. I was telling someone about the New Mexico feelings when you drive with just 2 fingers and that your seatbelt can be used as a branding iron. Made me think of a story from my book Since 1950. Here's that story. I was at a small gas station in the middle of the great American desert one hot, sunny day. I had retrieved a lost and forgotten bolt left on the road. How a piece of steel forged in Pittsburgh came to be lying on a lonely road in the middle of New Mexico will never be known. Unfortunately, I had retrieved that bolt with the left front tire of my car, so I was watching with mild interest as the owner of the only gas station in a town I was in wrestled the tire off of my car. The sign said, "Jake's Gas and Repair." Jake was busy with my tire. "Sure is hot," I said. "Sure is," Jake agreed. I added, "I imagine you're used to it by now." "Accustomed and accepting, but I never say I'm used to it," he corrected. "Now, if you think this is hot, you should have seen how hot it was one day." Obviously, he was telling the story, and I said, "Wow, I want to hear this." "When was that?" I prompted. With a wave of his hand, he explained, "That silver truck over there, silver long tube of a truck, made me think of that hot time." He squinted across the shimmering road at that long silver truck parked at a cafe. "I worked on the railroad as an engineer before I retired and bought this gas station." He worked and talked patiently with well-spaced pauses in both. "Working as a railroad engineer, now that's hot work." He paused to mop his forehead with his sleeve, leaving a little streak of grease. "Diesel's was a mite bit hot when it was freezing outside and boiling at all other times. Being an engineer isn't all the fun people think. In fact, at times it gets downright dull." He handed me the bolt he had just pulled out of the tire and started to fix the hole. Every so often as he talked, he reached under the workbench next to him for a beverage. Taking a long swallow, he said, "One time I was taking a load of boxcars through some mountains when I came around a hill and up the tracks in front of me where I had no chance to stop, I saw a long silver tube-shaped semi-truck sitting dead across the tracks and not moving. He did a good imitation of a windmill turned loose in a high wind, as he described. Well, I pulled the horn, I set the brakes, I kind of leaned back against the seat saying to myself, I hope it's milk, I hope it's milk, I hope it's milk. Jake consulted his beverage again, so I impatiently said, well, what happened then? He said, I stuck my head out the window and looking closer at the truck that was sitting on the tracks at the crossing, I realized Shell didn't carry milk. Luckily for me, the gas didn't catch on fire until the engine hit was already through it. It was hot when it caught, though. My car came off the rack, and Jake made change for the 20 I gave him. He was still thinking about that time. As I got into my car, we both looked at that silver truck again. You know, he said meditatively, I don't have any use for milk, seeing how I drink my coffee black. But at times, I sure wonder what it had been like if that had been a milk truck instead of a Shell gasoline carrier. He added, I believe I could have gotten to like milk. I think of that story when it's hot around here, and also when I see milk carriers in the area. Michael Swickard here with Enchanting Stories of New Mexico. What is coming with this harvest I want to talk about, which is a special reserve release of Hatch Green Chili Veritable Big Jim in a 16-ounce jar. Now, Veritable means this product is only made with Big Jim. Quite often when you get jars of chili, they are a combination of several types of chili. Well, this is just Big Jim, which is a little bit sweet and has a medium heat level, and is my favorite, my very favorite. Big Jim is popular in New Mexico restaurants and homes. In 1975, Big Jim chili was listed in the Guinness Book of Records, World Records, as having the largest chili pods, perfect for chili rellenos. It was developed by chili researcher Dr. Roy Nakayama at New Mexico State University. It's a hybrid of New Mexico chili peppers and a Peruvian pepper Nakayama and a fellow researcher, Jim Lytle, combined. Big Jim is named for Jim Lytle, who died unexpectedly at that time. I'm going to talk about Dr. Roy Nakayama on next Wednesday's podcast when I normally talk about people. One thing that happens when people live in Las Cruces or they happen to be here in our little slice of paradise, they can actually come by the Fresh Chili Company's gift shop. It's at 1160 El Paseo Road, Suite D7A in Las Cruces. Now, it's open from Monday to Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Now, I need to tell you about some of the new products at the Fresh Chili Company that I find wonderful. There's a local honey with Hatch Red Chili that's a hot honey, and it is great on biscuits. French fries, something I happen to know a lot about, are so much better when you put the Fresh Chili Company's Hatch-Up, it's called. It's ketchup and Hatch Red Chili on it. There's onions. We have some good onions. I happen to use a lot of onions. Come and browse and have some more surprises. There's pecans there. There's books. There's shirts. There's caps. There's a lot of stuff. Frozen surprises. And again, it's pretty wonderful. Monday to Saturday, the Fresh Chili Company gift shop, 1160 El Paseo Road, Suite D7A in Las Cruces, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. This is Michael Swickard with Enchanting Stories of New Mexico, brought to you by the Fresh Chili Company. Thank you for your time today. Monday and Friday, we will talk culturally and historically like I have done on this podcast. Wednesday, we talk about people that are important to New Mexico. Now, we'll have lots of stories and news about New Mexico with these podcasts, but if you have something or someone you'd like me to talk about, you can write to me, Michael at freshchilico.com, Michael at freshchilico.com. Also, if you're looking to have a tour of the facility, I'm the one that does it. Yes, I tell stories and I'll take you around showing you how all this is done. We can do a lot of it. Some of it we can't go in the kitchen, but we can look in there. And so if you want to send an email to me, michael@freshchilico.com. Have a great rest of your day. Oh yes, and eat plenty of that good Hatch Valley chili. Like I always say, some chili is good, more is better. Bye for now.